Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Our next guest, they're on the front lines of cannabis justice. Husband and wife team have had their roots firmly planted in cannabis culture for decades. Welcome, Maurice Stringer and Cynthia Mompoint.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having us.
I've given our I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you want them to know about you and your business?
Uh, yeah. Well, I guess we can start off with the lack of, I guess, us in this space, us meaning Black people in this space, and the entrepreneurism around that. But you also have a platform of social justice. So we started off in this space, cannabis space, I guess, the legal space and social justice. But my origin with the plant and being, I guess, on the front lines of the war on drugs started at 14 years old. I was arrested for sale to a minor. I was a minor myself, and I was charged with an adult felony along with attempted robbery at 14 years old. And that was my introduction to the war on drugs. That was the whole world was, the fervor of the, children being predators was echoed from, the highest platform of the land. So, just being in this space, the legal space after, a couple legacy cannabis arrests, streaming from 1994 to 2015. I had sailed to an undercover cop in 2015 in Massachusetts, and also had about $60,000 worth of concentrates in Ohio. I was arrested for that. And just transitioning to the legal space, being a voice for those who weren't as privileged as myself and my wife, us both going through this together. Her dealing with, a child soldier, the trauma that comes with that, all of having to operate in the underworld, which I did, the violence and everything, the criminality and stuff. And then just the transitioning to the legal aspect, in 2015, I was looking at, mandatory 10 years in Ohio if I lost. So, I like, you got to be undefeated in these cases. I was in that case in Ohio. And yeah, that's my introduction. My wife can talk about her justice involvement, in the school. She's been working in the school systems and, underprivileged areas and such.
So yeah, my trajectory into this the cannabis entrepreneurial space is slightly different. As Maur shared, my background is in education, doing a lot of justice work for our communities that are underserved, our children who have been impacted by not only our the disparities in our education system, but also the school to prison pipeline. And then coming into the entrepreneurial and later on in adult life on stages and realizing that was the experience that Maur had growing up and the different trajectories we've had in our upbringing and how that brought us together behind a brand now where we can not only share our background to empower our community, but also build a legacy for our family. In addition to the education work, I did policy work in the state of Massachusetts during Obama's administration, and then moved on to doing policy work on an independent level for in the cannabis space, really looking at the different ways that our systems that are rolling out the cannabis industry, opening up markets, the ways that they can actually effectuate equity. It's a term and a phrase that's touted a lot across all industries. It doesn't matter where you're looking at, whether it's housing, real estate, education. We constantly are having this conversation about the gap between the Black community and the rest of the world, or our white counterparts. And so with the cannabis industry, the legal side of it being new, there's such a great opportunity to actually effectuate equity. And what I brought to the space was a program called the PIES program, which stands for Pairing, Incubating, Excelling, and Seed. And it's a program designed to put responsibility on not just our government systems, but also the industry itself to ensure that we see equitable participation on the legal side, especially when we consider the data on the when it was prohibited, and when we had enforcement, the data really showing that our Black men represented upwards of 50, depending on the market, to 75% of the marijuana arrests. So that's a brief, if you will, background and intro into who we are, how we got here, and what we're looking to.
And also just on the business aspect, this is the first full spectrum cannabis energy shop on the East Coast. So innovation, when you enter into these spaces, you want to come with brilliance, you want to come with excellence, you want to come with something they haven't seen before, and that's what we did. And also a category that's we're opening up and that we're pioneering in is the cannabis supplement category. So this is, everybody's doing the gummies and the brownies, the sugary stuff. We're over 40, my wife and I, and we don't want sugary stuff without cannabis. How about we start having cannabis in a medicinal way or in an athletic way? Like myself, I'm a lifetime athlete, so same thing with my wife. We're both athletes, and we like to stay active. So look for us for some innovative first, industry first in this space. And I think it's important to be aggressive and first and innovative in your thinking. And in so many ways to be aggressive. It's not just a physical way. You can be aggressive in your thinking, in your wanting to add some value to the industry, into the world. You want to offer something that hasn't been seen before. So that's what we did with this product. We didn't come in just as Black faces, quote unquote. And if you do have that opportunity, you better max it out, get some individuals to help you to maximize that opportunity. It's not going to all come from that company that gave you an opportunity. You're going to have to get some professionals that you hire yourself to help you maximize that opportunity and really do something unique and special.
How did you meet?
We met in the church. We met in the church, Super Bowl Sunday, 2003.
2003, but we had met before then. But that's when we
started dating. Yeah.
So, and interestingly enough, the reason why we met is because Maur has always been a lyricist, if you will. So he performed a lot, and and I was teaching, and I saw him, and I said, "Wow, my students would really be inspired by him because of his background." I knew he had a rough upbringing, if I could use the term rough, and it's only, I guess I would say, in my comparison to my upbringing, but more relatable to my students is basically. So to see a Black man who was, and we were in our young 20s, so to see a Black man who was still in the culture, very relevant, but yet, was doing something and moving forward in life, and can really offer some inspiration to my students, who at the time were like 8, 9 years old. And often many of them did not have male figures in their life. So, I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, would you mind hanging out with some of my students?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. I love kids. I love mentoring kids." And so it started that way. But then
she was fine, and I didn't have no money, so I had skill, and I had what I had to offer. I was at a blue collar little job, I guess, whatever. Working for the county, but just seeing how she was with the children, patience and stuff like that, I knew I needed that type of stuff in my life. And yeah, she was teaching in Bankhead, and those children were wild, and they came up from that type of upbringing.
But, what do you mean by they were wild? My children were not wild.
Well, I don't feel like my upbringing was rough. I feel
Richards, like you've asked us a question we haven't answered before.
I don't feel like my upbringing was rough. I was adventurous. I got into a lot of stuff. I got arrested a lot of times, and got into violence and local things, local gangs and such. But it was an adventure. I was a warrior, a young kid. I think life is everything, and a lot of people, people with money and opportunity have it rough. A lot of people have it rough. Puppy love is real to a puppy. So, I grew up in I was on the front lines of the war on drugs, flat out. My charges, what I was being arrested for. My friends were getting arrested, 12, 13, 14 years old, doing 5, 10 years, getting crazy numbers. But you've seen that I was helping out in the jails in Georgia with the children. You see that with the children in the jails today. They're still being charged with adults. distilled 30, 40 something years for these children. So I think it's something that we have to deal with in America. The school to prison pipeline my wife mentioned, you know, but yeah, that's how we met.
In Atlanta. That was the other place. So Maur's from Long Island, New York, Freeport, New York, and I'm from Massachusetts, and we met in Atlanta.
Talk about your product. How did you bring it to market?
Oh, nice. So yeah, my longtime friend of mine who I've been knowing since I was 12 years old, Ricardo, wrestling my brother. I call him my brother because that's what we have. We have that allegiance where we came from. We came from a club of wrestlers, Freeport Wrestling. So he's been creating products in the supplement industry for over 20 years. And so I got that experience, and two other of my friends who were launching products and had businesses that I brought on board to help me bring this. But this is our brainchild. You know, he bought the base formula and the things that I like, because I live a different lifestyle, a holistic lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle. So we got the plant-based amino acids, no sugars, no artificial flavors and coloring. You know, the things that I feel are important to me in a product. You know, 2 milligrams of plant-based sugar, monk fruit. We have vitamin B3, B6, B12, which is very important in the American diet. A lot of us are deficient in that, and it creates issues, symptoms of depression. You know, so I wanted to a neurotropic. If you're familiar with the movie Limitless, they have this product called NZT, and it's this miracle drug that makes you smarter. And I like that. I wanted a smart energy shot. I wanted something to boost your brain and your body, because there's several different avenues of energy to the body. So we did that, and yeah, you know, and we have some incredible products to come.
So did you all, is it your formula or did you white label it?
Oh, no, it's ours. It's ours 100%. If it's ours 100%, we own it 100%. SOPs and everything. We have dozens of SOPs for different products that we're going to be bringing to market. We created a way where we can create the products for the most part outside of the lab, and then bring them to a product manufacturer to finish what we can finish there or put it together with the cannabis. So yeah, you know, that's another thing, a little nugget out there for you guys to make yourself independent in this space and be able to be in multiple states. But I definitely don't see anything wrong with white labeling. You know, it's about the contract and what does the paperwork look like. You know, you want freedom if you're going to white label. I plan to do some white labeling. I want to do some white labeling with you know, some pre-rolls and stuff that I have that I want to put together. But yes, I don't see anything wrong with white labeling. I would tell people who are white labeling, you know, watch out, because you want to see what competing products are on the shelf. You don't want to do a competing product. I don't want to do a product that are 10 other products like that out there, because then you're going to just use me for a blackface, because you're going to get what you need out of it, and I'm going to get a product that doesn't sell and it doesn't create a need in the industry. They're not going to miss me if something happens. So when you white label, you want to use something that they want to bring to market that's not on market, potentially, and that you have, I guess, something with it. Unless you have, I've been smoking a long time, pothead, so I have my special way that I twist, and these special cigars and pre-rolls that I want to bring to market, you know, with some concentrates, and can't tell you too much, but I won't grow it. I'll be using somebody else's material, so that's considered white labeling. You know, but yeah.
I had a question around when you did your introduction. There's a lot of things that I still want to unpack. And someone is listening, and you talked about more regarding the prison to pipeline, how you were looking at 10 years, how you have gotten into this space, which is by design to keep us out of the space. So I want to start with how did you get off the sentence? How did that work out legally?
Whoo, I got real spiritual, you know, I got real spiritual. I got real spiritual because it could have went anywhere. Oh, Pepperbrook, Ohio is extremely racist. I think it's like 1% Black people.
If they have that.
You know, they did it with, so in America you have 72 hours to be charged, 3 days. They kept me 5 days and didn't charge me. I had to get my lawyer to threaten them to let me out. And then they tried to railroad me, you know, threaten me to take 3 years, or you know, they're gonna give me 10 plus years if I'm gonna lose. So I got real spiritual, you know, meditation, yoga, everything that I can uncover and unearth. You know, I'm an intellect, my wife with thinkers, you know, and I just see just so many Christians and Muslims in jail. And I needed something powerful. So I was going to the sciences, I was going to things of that nature, to anchor me, you know. And it just was it was a trying time. I was already very spiritual prior to. I've been spiritual my entire life. But when she met me, I was teaching in the church. But you know, yeah. I got real spiritual, and we intellectualized ourselves in the case. We fought our own case, even though I paid for a lawyer. He was saying take the 3.5 years. He was telling me to take the time. You know, but I fought my case. It was a pretentious stop. And then the one in Massachusetts, you know, it was an entrapment. But they didn't want to. In pre-trial, I asked for the information. I wanted to hear the phone call. So this cop talking to me, telling me about his wife and crying and stuff, because he infiltrated my community. I was a caregiver. So I was doing something was in the gray period of the law, which was why I got out of selling to a police officer. I don't know nobody who got off from selling. It was considered a Schedule 1 drug. You know, so I got out of that. We wrote our own case. We got real smart. You know, in terms of becoming lawyers and stuff. And I used the legal aid in that case in Massachusetts, and we were able to get that thrown out. But yeah, you know.
Talk about marriage and marijuana.
Marriage and marijuana?
You mean sanity?
Yeah. I was just telling somebody the other day. Yeah, I smoke all the time, and you know, when I don't, because I do, you know, it's good to take breaks. You know, I'm like, hey guys, you know, I'm gonna stop smoking weed for a little bit. They're like, what? You gonna do what? No, you know, so everybody knows, like, yo, go over there, go to the other side of the house, go outside, go play, go do something. My son's always coming, and you know, we roughhouse all the time, so we have a good time. But you know, yeah, you know, cannabis it's intrinsic to me and with me, everything I do. You know, I'm a super athlete, self-proclaimed, I guess, and you know, hasn't stopped that. It's something that's a big part of my life still. I'll still run 6 miles. I'll still, you know, train plyometrics and yoga and meditation. So I just think it's a part of just being consistent in your own training, and you can do cannabis. But yeah, cannabis and marijuana, I don't know how anybody doesn't do cannabis, but yeah, for me, it's definitely helps appease my trauma. It opens up the heart chakra, makes me more loving and easy to get along with.
And that's our very personal journey and experience and in the power of the plant. I think in general, when you talk about cannabis, just piggying back off of the point that you just made in terms of opening up the love chakra, you know, the plant itself provides so many nutrients. It Cannabis and our endocannabinoid system are compatible in the sense that our endocannabinoid system is what controls our homeostasis in our body. And with the cannabinoids in the plant, when you consume it, the plant naturally goes to places in the body that are deficient. And so oftentimes in our society, we are dealing with things such as trauma that impacts the body in a lot of different ways and manifests itself in challenging our interactions with people. So you may be more angry, more irritable, more easily frustrated. However, when you consume the plant, it helps reset and bring back that homeostasis status. And so you find that people will say, yeah, you know, I'm chill, I'm lax, I'm easier to get along with, you know, it's the love plant and so forth. So there, you know, the stereotypes that are associated with the plant are actually grounded in scientific evidence. And so in marriages in general, I think cannabis is something that can help bring people together, not just in that way, but also there are cannabis products that, for instance, with our product, I find when I consume it, I am a lot more social in terms of very loquacious, a lot more talkative than other times. Um, and I think a lot of people will say that when they do consume cannabis, it relaxes them. I don't want to say necessarily lowers inhibitions, but it definitely you're not as uptight. And I think in marriage situations, our society, there's so many outside external forces that put pressures on the relationship, and that can actually serve as an avenue, a vehicle to um, mitigate that and allow you to bond, form relationships, address issues, build together. And I think it's definitely done that for us. You know, there are cannabis products that also support marriages in the intimacy capacity. When Moore talks about,
But you're missing the biggest thing in our lives. You use cannabis. She used cannabis in 2 home births.
so that's part of the family structure. If you
That's
will,
she
I
asked
guess.
about us. She used it in 2 home births instead of painkillers.
Correct. So we have 4 children, and the first 2 were via C-section, and our last 2 were via home births. And cannabis played a critical role because in our second to last, so in our first home birth, up until then I had never experienced contractions. My C-sections had been pre-scheduled, and so our doula had said, you know, when the contractions hit, you're going to need this, and she provided us with the cream, and it was a cannabis infused cream. And when the first contraction came, I fell to the floor and I said, "Oh, what did I get myself into?" And I remembered the cream, and More massaged my body with the cream. And
Yep. Shout out to Ishla. She has a cannabis product coming out too. She has a line coming out. She's gonna be rocking with us to get her product out. So yeah, she's coming soon.
Cannabis plays such an amazing role in our lives, and we're excited to bring this product to market as our flagship product, but also to bring additional products that can be used in these ways,
Absolutely.
in so many ways.
Absolutely, it's a brand new industry. There's so many products to be put out here, and so much to do in this space. It's you know, the green frontier, a new frontier.
Talk about raising capital to start your business.
Oh, you know, so what I did was I started my story. I told my story about one of my cannabis arrests specifically. It's called Massachusetts Jumping Jim Crow for Cannabis. It was actually in response to a open forum, a public open forum question that I was trying to write out what I was going to say, and it ended up turning into a book. And so that's how I got up capital, and we just making myself known, telling my story. We started hitting up everybody. Like my wife and I, our experience was legalese. Her background is also real estate. She, family's in real estate and interpreting real estate contracts. I did real estate investments. So we just created contracts, created situations, and hit up everybody. We hit up everybody. We went on meetings. So many no. So many people told us no. So it wasn't a straightforward thing. It don't take capital to get in this space. I can definitely say that. I didn't pay anything to get in this space. What I did was I created value. Value that I already accrued from, I guess, since 1994, of documented legacy arrests. These are felony arrests for sale or some type of involvement with the plant. I was guerrilla growing in 2008. I was on, I did so many things in terms of illegal stuff. I don't need to go into everything in terms of plants, dealing with the plants. So just writing my story, my wife got us into the economic empowerment program, which also created value for us. There was equity programs like New York. The card license is out. That's where I'm at right now. Also, New York, it's just like retribution for me. There's no way I would not be there. That's where my first 3-4 cannabis arrests were. That's where the injustice started and the war started for me. So the equity programs, find out if they're having some programs, try to get into those programs. Those would make you look, I guess, attractive to a potential investor. But I would say, you know, see, so much of me is tied to this. So much of my heart and passion is tied to this. So it's easy for me, you know, to the value that I create in this space. It's easy for me to, and like my wife said, I orate, I do poetry, you know, everything, you know. So I would say create value, find an investor who has money, but doesn't have, you know, a face, doesn't have, you know, the passion for the plant. Some people don't even smoke, you know, so they need to be attached to a pothead to even know the culture, you know, to even know what to create, what we would want. And yeah, so that's how I got up my capital, hustling, you know, hustling my value, you know, that's what I'm still doing, hustling my value, creating value, because you can create a product and people still not going to buy it because it's not a product of value. So everything is what value can you add to the space, you know? And when you do that and you put in, and plus my tenacity, we actually got arrest threats from the CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts, you know, for our activism, you know, for our talking about what we saw was going on and that was wrong. And, you know, that garnished arrest threats, that garnished us a lot of attention. And companies, and at the same time, we were hitting up companies, hitting up major MSOs, multi-state operators, local guys. We ended up, a local guy in Massachusetts ended up picking us up, and we ended up working with them. And that was, you know, that's not the end all be all. When somebody gives you a deal, every step of the stage of the way is you know, you have to be tenacious, and, you know, it's not a game on any level. So even after getting into these contracts, the contract we created was so good, the company they didn't want to honor it, and so we just learned a lot in the process, and you know, we out here, we outside.
Yeah, and so I think you probably touched on so many elements to what it takes to raise capital or to get a product to market. You know, there are avenues, as Maur shared, that in terms of the avenue that we took, where you don't necessarily need capital to bring a product to market. You know, requires the tenacity, the value that you bring, the creativity, and the understanding and the belief that you can do this. And then alternatively, there are people who enter into the industry through equity programs. You know, I think that the equity programs, because of a lot of the challenges that we have pushed against, when we looked at the equity programs when they first roll out, and the fact that, you know, with our PIES program that we mentioned earlier, the seed component has not been in the equity programs, and then they would turn around and say, oh, equity isn't working in this industry, and we're like, wait a minute, this industry is too new, and you have not provided all the pillars necessary for success when you talk about achieving social equity in a space like this. And so what we are starting to see are more of these markets, these industries, as they open up, setting aside some funding that entrepreneurs will be able to tap into and bring their product, their brand, or perhaps even get a licensed operation in this space to market. Other than that, when it comes to raising capital, the challenges that we hear in other industries, that you see when it comes to Black entrepreneurs seeking investors for their projects, if that's the route that they choose to take, those challenges exist in this space as well. Again, what the advice that we give any entrepreneur, regardless of the industry that we're in, is to focus on the value that you're bringing, be tenacious, and know that for despite the no's, there is a yes that's going to come. And as long as you're confident in that and keep pushing forward, you'll find your people who want to support and provide the capital and the guidance that you need to come to market.
If someone is interested in your product, how do they get the product? And with talking about the legal side, and can someone purchase your product that's in another state? Or when you're dealing with cannabis, is it indicative to, I can only purchase what's in my state? And I know that's a lot, and I'm going to get it from my audience because they're like one question at a time, but I had to get that out.
Oh, no, no, actually, it ties all together. So as it stands right now, as we're having this conversation, cannabis is state specific, so you cannot cross state lines. However, there's quite a bit of legislation and conversation, both at the state level and at the federal level, about one at the federal level decriminalizing cannabis, or if not descheduling it. And so at that point you'd be able to cross lines. Or at the state level, there are states who are petitioning to engage in intercommerce and have agreements amongst each other, which would allow cannabis to cross over into other states. So as of today, to get the product, it's licensed and on the shelves in Massachusetts. We are currently in over 60 stores in Massachusetts. We do have a website and we're very active on social media. And so we're building our community that way. Shakti Greenlit is the brand. ShaktiGreenlit.com is our website, and Shakti Greenlit is our, those are the handles and hashtags on any of the media platforms. If you put that in, you will find us. You'll find more information about the product and the brand. And we're looking to enter into other markets, engage in product manufacturing agreements, licensing or co-packaging agreements to bring our product into other spaces. And so there's potential there for us to build relationships with entrepreneurs in other states that way as well. And we are accessible through any of those media platforms that I mentioned. Anything you wanted to add?
I have a lot to add. I don't know what I don't want to just talk.
Talk about naming your product.
Shakti. So me, personally, I was extremely masculine energy. I'm still masculine, strong masculine, but it was my journey with the feminine energy through Hinduism, tantric, and Buddhism, yoga, meditation. The Shakti represents the feminine energy. And I think it's a powerful force, even for women, because we're so hyper masculine. Everything is so patriarchal driven. And that's where you get the war and the violence, and everything else is all patriarchal. You see everything that the matriarchal energy has to offer. That's all of the arts, all of the sports, orating. Anything that has to do with beauty is attributed to the feminine energy. So just that's part of my daily ritual in the morning. Yoga, meditation, even the martial arts that I do is Taekwondo, which is the movement is more feminine than say like a Muay Thai or something like that. But I'm just keeping that, making sure I wove that in my life, and that's what the Shakti is all about. That's where the name comes from. But Shakti in Hinduism, it means like it's everything. It's the I guess it's the unquantifiable matter in scientific terms, that's running through everything. And she represents the feminine divine force.
You talked about motherhood, Cynthia. Talk about cannabis and motherhood, specifically the introduction to cannabis to your children, how much exposure, and I don't know their age. If you want to share, you don't have to share. How much exposure are they involved in the industry or with cannabis?
So that's a great question. I think to start with cannabis, and I'll take a step back and just cannabis and womanhood. And there are different stages in our life changes that we go through. And going back to this conversation about homeostasis, as our hormones are changing, cannabis definitely can be a solution and a vehicle to help maintain homeostasis, whether it's the challenges that women face with their menstrual cycle, or other women health issues as they develop, even into I shared about childbirth, but also the labor piece, which I'm going to loop back to in a second. Excuse me, the pregnancy aspect of it. I'll loop back to that in a second. But even cannabis also plays a role with, as women go through menopause and the changes in our hormonal shifts that we experience there. And when it comes to cannabis, the stigma is so strong as looking at this plant as a drug, that a lot of mothers to this day are still uh, they are apprehensive of utilizing the plant. Whenever you see any product, it will tell you, if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, do not consume the plant, because we have not had the research in the States to support or to effectively negate the use of cannabis. What we have learned looking at research that's taken place in other countries, and with the research that is now emerging, that cannabis does not have a negative impact on the baby or on the in the womb when consumed. And there's more research that we can go into a little bit deeper in another conversation.
And that's something they've actually attacked Black women for having cannabis, around their children, in the hospitals and such, right?
Well, not just in the hospital. So here's the thing, the challenge, right? With the stigma, Child Protective Services can be called, even in states where cannabis is legal, because it's still considered a Schedule I drug. And now Child Protective Services has now been introduced into the family dynamic, and that creates a whole set of issues when we talk about Black families and their interaction and with CPS, Child Protective Services, depending on which state however they term it. And for us in our family, everything is always grounded in education and information. And so we start off with educating our children that this is a plant, and they recognize it as plant medicine that Poppy uses. And it's not something that I consume often in front of them. Actually, I'm not a smoker. I never really could figure out the mechanics on smoking. So I'm not a smoker. However, our oldest, who is now a young adult, she doesn't consume as well.
But so when we're talking about from the whole thing about it, our children do hemp seeds every day.
So let's go into the larger aspect of cannabis. Right? So the cannabis plant has so many elements to it. A lot of the time where folks are focused on the THC component, which has the notable and visible often impact of the psychotropic impact that people are very cognizant of. All of the cannabinoids have some impact on the body, and some of it can be psychotropic. However, THC has the strongest and most evident of the cannabinoids that we are aware of. And so, to your point, hemp seeds, we are into holistic health. Hemp seeds come from the hemp plant, which is part of the cannabis, under the cannabis classification. And so, and our children have been consuming hemp seeds since in the womb. We make hemp milk.
Yeah, I think the future is going to be like grocery stores full of cannabis. Our product it's full spectrum THC, but it doesn't give you any psychoactive effects because it's only 5 milligrams. It's at a level where even my wife, who doesn't consume cannabis like that, it's not going to make you no psychosis, no adverse effects. It's at the medicinal level, so that's another thing that we want to talk about. The cannabis being introduced at your body, not just to get high, the full spectrum, not CBD, the full spectrum being introduced to your body and into products like milk or anything, regular products that you can find in a grocery store. I think that's going to be the future, as all the reefer madness, the shadows, as we step out of the shadows of all the reefer madness, and all of that. But yeah.
And so it's circling back to, it is something that's part of our family, and it's a part of it in ways that we don't even think about. But when folks talk about, and I think it's something that's a conversation that needs to be had in our communities with consumption of the plant, particularly in the smoking style, education, and having these conversations with your children early on, letting them know what it is, why people have it. And before you can have those conversations with your children, we have to educate ourselves. And we, aside from more consuming it, but really understanding a lot of the science behind it and the history behind why we even have the stigmas, the misinformation that has circulated, and using all of that to empower our families and our children so that they can decide, as they grow up, as they get older, how to incorporate different elements of the cannabis plant in their life.
What is the takeaway? The audience is listening to this conversation. What do you want them to take away from this conversation?
There is a lot of opportunity in this industry, particularly for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of opportunity to enter into this space as who you are and what you're passionate about. There's opportunities to work with businesses that are already in this space. There's opportunity to support businesses. I think cannabis is something that Maur already started to allude to. The future, we'll see cannabis in so many forms. I use the word cannabinoid. The most common cannabinoids everyone hears all the time is THC, and now we hear a lot more of CBD, but there are a lot more coming online, and we'll start to see these products, these cannabinoids in products, and there's opportunity from a business standpoint to engage in all of that. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say, join our Shakti Greenlit community. Whether you are in the state of Massachusetts or close to Massachusetts or elsewhere in the country, tap in and connect with us, because you're going to see a lot more of what we're bringing, a lot more of our innovation, and we definitely want to expand our community across the country and the world, I guess you would say.
Yeah, so one thing that when you asked me what I wanted to add, I guess, my grandfather, he was in liquor prohibition. He built my house, the house that my mother's still living in to this day, in 1960 off of liquor money. He had no job. But you don't see a lot of Black people in this space, in the liquor space, selling liquor, doing anything else like that. But we were a major part of it. So said my aunt tells me we were a major part of it. She tells me that Black people used to supply the Italians, Al Capone. My grandfather actually had the same charge that Al Capone had, tax evasion. He was a military guy. He was in the military, came up from Florida, into Long Island, and was hustling, ended up building a store on the end of the block that, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Black people to be a part of this space, get in this space, maintain your space, and hold your space when you get in this space. Yeah, for pasture breath, to create legacy, create foundations that will outlast your breath. So we're not, minorities in this space 100 years from now,
or even less than that. That's a great point. Yes.
And the new term in 2023 is, especially Black women, we're the new majority when it comes to entrepreneurship. So we just want to make sure that we're, and I know when you were speaking about the minorities, that it's not a lot of us in the cannabis space. And as I mentioned, the podcast has been around for 6 years. We're entering in our 6th year. The only reason I've interviewed individuals in the space 6 years ago. And I want you to talk about the cannabis space 6 years ago and today, because I remember very prominent, it was a doctor and some other people in the space, and just the stigma. And they were talking about it's not all that it's cracked up to be, in terms of what they had to endure getting in the space. And I know people that try to enter in different states, and the entrance point, the amount of money just to get in, was beyond their means. So can you shed light on that?
Yeah, first of all, there's so many different things going on. One, how many products does America sell where it's only, specific to a state, right? So we have that going on for ourselves, which is it in a capitalistic model, it's not going to be sustainable for a long time. But people get in for all types of reasons. I get in it because this is my lifestyle. It's whether it goes up or down, I'm going to be here. Period. So it just depends on what's your motivation for getting in this space. Like, I risked my freedom for this. I was kidnapped, held at gunpoint, and robbed, for cannabis when it was illegal and there was no referees, and you just had to operate, So when I was in Ohio, I got arrested. I had a gun, I had cannabis on me. I had everything, So you need these certain elements to operate. And a lot of people don't come from that tenacity. I do. So, whether you want to be here now, I love the plant. I love this plant. Whether it was, it wasn't $1 billion industry or not, I would be a part of it and just making a living. You know, um, it's something that I've always been a part of. I put my heart into this, and to see it come legal in certain spaces is a dream come true. Nothing's going to stop me from being in this space, whatever the market does.
I would add that 6 years ago, we were in this space. 6 years ago, we were, that would have put us at 2016, 17. So we had just gotten out of the last set of charges.
Yeah.
And it's a very different landscape. 6 years ago, we barely had 5 states, I believe, at that time that were legal. Massachusetts hadn't gone legal yet. New York hadn't gone legal. And here we are with these states, so many states on the East Coast now legal. And so it's opened up a lot more. And I think in the past, the perception of entering into cannabis was this idea of you had to have a dispensary, you had to have a cultivation facility, a huge production with millions and millions of dollars. And that's what it meant to enter into the cannabis industry, when in fact there's so many other elements to it, everything from the decision makers to the policy makers to the attorneys to the digital content creators to the advertisers to the marketers to the staff support. So entering into this space, and this goes back to when I say where you fit in, where your passions lie, the opportunity is vast. And our presence, it's important that we bring our presence in with our skills and our talent, and we make the space for others who look like us, who have similar experience to us, but perhaps did not have the avenue, the network, the opportunity that some of us at the forefront are able to, as the as the industry continues to open up. I say market because there's going to be one large market, the United States market, as you said, but currently we just have a bunch of individual state silos. And so entering into the space through any of those avenues is very important and a great opportunity, a different landscape. 6 years from now, to your point, I would like to see an industry where it doesn't matter what level of the industry you're looking at. It doesn't matter what angle of the industry you're looking at. We are well represented and represented as ourselves, not compromising, but being able to be our authentic selves in this space and setting a tone for other industries to follow suit.
If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
You ask great questions, Dr. Richards. Let's see.
Would I ask myself?
Yeah.
Or
a question you'd ask me.
I don't know. That's a good one. That is a good one. I don't know. What would I ask you?
Yeah.
In this interview?
I'm trying to think of what would I ask you. I think you've shared quite a bit. You've covered so much of what we've done, where we've been, where we look to go in the future, and how folks can connect with us, why we're here, our passions.
Well, since I've stumped you guys, I will ask you this last question before we go into the rapid round of fun. Talk about legacy. When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm writing. I just want to be able to finish the books I want to write. I got so many books that I've started, and so yeah, I want to be remembered through the stuff that I've written. So yeah, I think we all should leave something like that. I love the book Who Moved My Cheese. It's a business book, Who Moved My Cheese, but it's really phenomenal. If you're not living in fear, you can leave a path for other people. Everybody has a path they took, and you don't know if you're going to get to where you want to get to, but you should write it down. for your children, for whoever, and, add value, leave some value, maybe put something in a book, a coagulate of my experiences, that could give somebody some, I guess, some inspiration, my children or something, I don't know.
You cannot end that with "I don't know." That's actually spot on in terms of when you talk about building a legacy. And I'm glad you brought up that book, because when to build a legacy, it's not just establishing a foundation, but also creating that blueprint so that those who come up, who are looking to figure out, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Have something to build upon, and then have a pathway to follow, or perhaps, if they choose to deviate, at least they understand and know what the impact that taking the path that you have established, the blueprint, what the impact, what that led to, and what it created and it provided for them. And that ties into this message of, as we enter into the space, wanting to ensure that we are being our authentic selves, so that others can enter and they can also come in and expand and ensure that there is a Black presence, not just the Black culture, but a Black presence throughout the industry.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
Ready.
Okay, yes, ready.
What is your comfort food?
Oh, I love bread, but I try to stay away from carbs. I love cocoa bread. I make my own cocoa bread. Who's supposed to answer the questions first?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I'm glad you did, because okra came up in my head, and I'm like, that's not my comfort food, but that is it's my favorite vegetable. I don't know why okra came up, but you said answer quickly, so that's what came up.
The last movie you saw?
Woman King.
Woman King, yeah. We just saw Woman King.
You relax doing what?
Smoking.
Playing with my children.
Working out.
Playing with the kids.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Ooh, I love Aretha Franklin and Patti LaBelle.
Oh, I don't do a favorite. Thames is playing on my.
Oh, Tim's.
Thames is playing on my on my loop right now, and I was trying to think who else is on there. Yeah, so I'll go with Thames for
my dream is to meet Patti LaBelle, maybe have a perform at our spot.
Oh, you know what, Lauryn Hill, because she's always on all of my playlists. So Lauryn Hill.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song. Oh, I love reggae. There's a drill song. My boy Dexter Dabbs has Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, which is like a slow dance song, slow reggae song, I guess.
My favorite dance song.
Big Blue.
What keeps coming to mind? So there's a gymnast who just came out. They just showed her clip. It's fantastic. And unfortunately, I do not remember her name, but she did it to Salt and Pepper and Push It. And I was like, yes, what an awesome.
That is a classic.
I need to add that song to my workout rotation music. And so that's the one that came to mind immediately.
Your ideal car?
Ooh, I love driving around, big cars, lift kits with, armored cars, with secret compartments.
When you say ideal, I want to design my own car. I want to design it. It would probably be sleek, fast, luxurious at the same time, but I would love to design it.
Workout or hit the couch?
Workout.
Cynthia and Maur, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you. And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
So the best way is to reach out to us is via social media platforms. Shakti Greenlit. Shakti is spelled SHAKTI GREENLIT. And we're heavy on IG, Twitter, Facebook. You can reach out to us directly on any of those. And then also on our website, shaktigreenlit.com. You can contact us. There's a contact page there. We manage all of those. So if you reach out to us during this time, we're the ones that will be on the responding end. Same thing with an email, info@shaktigreenlit.com.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.